I secretly reactivated my parents' police badge number without telling anyone. My sister and girlfriend, who swore to love me for a lifetime, still don't know and are waiting for my 100th apology to that poor student. They had planned to confess to me on the day of the apology that their constant favoritism was only to repay the poor student's life-saving grace. Exactly 1 month after my realization, they joyfully prepared dinner, waiting for me to come home and tell me they no longer had to walk on eggshells and could live happily like before. But what awaited them was my death sentence. In the martyrs' cemetery, the gravestone stood solemn and austere under the sun. I put down the flowers, tears welling up as I looked at the black and white photos of my parents. Captain Jie of the Hucheng Criminal Police Brigade, a comrade of my father, looked at me with a grim and serious expression, unlike his usual kind demeanor. "Young-kun, are you sure you want to reactivate the badge number? Your parents were heroes who sacrificed themselves for the country. They died without regret, but as parents, they definitely wouldn't want you to follow this path. Besides, if your sister and girlfriend found out, they would never agree. Uncle Shi, I understand the principle of the nation first, then the family, more than anyone," I said, my voice resolute and my face unyielding. Quote, "You know, I've always looked up to my parents, determined to contribute to the nation and society. You even helped me look over my police academy application. You should understand me best." Captain CA paused for a moment before sighing. "Since your mind is made up, I won't try to stop you. An undercover officer must go into hiding. All of your current identities must be abandoned. I will quickly arrange a fake death to make this identity of yours completely disappear from the world. Prepare yourself and wait for my notice." With my wish fulfilled, a heavy stone in my heart finally dropped. I bowed to the esteemed elder and slowly left. When I got home, the usually quiet living room was unusually tense. My sister, Jiyu Chanyu, and my girlfriend, Su Liao, sat on the sofa with extremely gloomy faces. Beside them, Song Jingnian, with his messy bird's nest haircut, was quietly complaining. Quote, "President Ji-yu, Miss Su, please don't blame Mr. Ji-yu. I know he didn't mean to cut my hair like this. It's my fault for making him angry, and he just took all his frustration out on me." Seeing his self-pitying act, Su Liao's eyes hardened, and her voice was filled with anger. "You don't need to make excuses for him. Qianyu and I know his young master temper best. Don't worry, we will definitely get justice for you today." Jiyu Qianyu chimed in, glaring at me severely. "Jiyu Youngsun, look at what you've done. Hurry up and apologize to Jingnian." Seeing a flash of triumph cross Song Jingnian's face, I remained silent, my face sinking. I hadn't seen Song Jingnian at all these past few days, so how could I have suddenly cut his hair? It was clearly another self-directed frame-up by Song Jingnian. But I didn't explain, because I knew that no matter how clumsy the accusation, as long as Song Jingnian said it, my sister and my girlfriend would believe it. Sure enough, seeing my indifferent attitude, Jiyu Qianyu's anger flared up. "I think you're truly lawless now. Liao, have someone restrain him for me." I looked at the two of them in disbelief. Before I could say anything, Su Liao had someone grab me, making me unable to move. Jiyu Qianyu then picked up a pair of scissors and ruthlessly cut a chunk of my hair. Snip! Watching my hair fall to the ground, my heart felt a sudden, sharp ache. I remembered when Jiyu Chanyu clumsily combed my hair when I was little, saying that as my sister, she would always take good care of me. After our parents were killed in the line of duty, only the two of us were left. My sister, Jiyu Qianyu, started from scratch, raising me and loving me to the best of her ability. When I was 15, she introduced me to her best friend, Su Liao. Su Liao fell in love with me at first sight, and the moment I became an adult, she couldn't wait to confess, officially becoming my girlfriend. Since then, I had two women who loved me unconditionally. They indulged me in everything, except for one thing. They feared I would repeat my parents' fate and forbade me from applying to the police academy. But I still secretly filled out the application, attended school for 4 years, only dreaming of reactivating my parents' police badge number one day. Now that I had graduated, I kept delaying, telling them about my new job. It wasn't until Song Jingnian appeared that I realized I no longer needed to say goodbye. Song Jingnian was a poor student sponsored by the GU group. The group sponsored hundreds of students every year, but Song Jingnian was the only one who came to express his gratitude in person. Not only that, but he also found a way to work at the GU group and grew closer to GU Qianyu and Su Leao. From the first time I saw Song Jingnian, I disliked him, sensing he was very cunning. Later, his actions proved my suspicion. He loved to feign distress, repeatedly framed me, and even took credit for saving my sister and girlfriend during a major earthquake a year ago. GU Qianyu and Su Leao both believe that Song Jingnian risked his life to save them, which is why they have treated him with such care ever since. But at the time, my legs were bruised and bloody from the mud, and my fingers were fractured from being crushed by rocks. It was me who saved them. I just passed out from exhaustion after pulling them out, and Song Jingnian took the credit. Repeatedly being framed had long since chilled my heart. That's why I didn't even plan to tell them about reactivating my parents' police badge number. Yet, I still hadn't imagined they would so cruelly cut my hair just because of a few casual accusations from Song Jingnian. After my hair was cut, Su Leao released me, and GU Qianyu threw down the scissors. They then hurried off to comfort Song Jingnian and have dinner, never looking at me again from start to finish. Watching their retreating figures, I collapsed onto the pile of cut hair and smiled ruefully. The next day, as soon as I opened my door, I saw GU Qianyu and Su Leao waiting outside, frowning at me. "Young son, stop having these young master tantrums. Jingnian is the GU family's savior. You must treat him well. The person we love most is still you. Being kind to him is just to repay a debt of gratitude. Don't be jealous for no reason." I was already tired of hearing these words over the past year. My lips barely moved as I uttered a number. 95. The two women exchanged a look, asking in unison, "What 95? I looked at them quietly, my voice as still as dead water. "GU Qianyu, Su Leao, this is the 95th time you have hurt me for Song Jingnian. On the 100th time, the me you claim to love most will be completely gone." Su Leao and GU Qianyu's faces instantly fell. "Young Fen, don't make such inauspicious jokes." I chuckled lightly, my tone genuinely sincere. "I'm not joking." GU Qianyu still thought I was throwing a tantrum and frowned slightly. "You're safe under Leao and my protection. Who would dare touch you? What could possibly happen?" Su Leao sensed something was wrong and pressed me. "What were you doing yesterday? Why did you come back so late?" I was about to answer when a ringtone interrupted me. Seeing that it was Song Jingnian's call, GU Qianyu quickly answered. Soon his voice, laced with grievance, came through. "President GU, I have tried every possible way to make Mr. GU happy, but he still cannot tolerate me. If that's the case, I have no choice but to leave. I've left my resignation letter on your desk. I'm going back to my hometown today. Goodbye." Hearing this, the two women couldn't stay put and rushed to the company. Watching their hurried backs disappear through the door, I gave a self-mocking smile and went back to my room. I packed up all my belongings and disposed of them one by one in the trash can. Gifts from GU Qianyu, couple items from Su Leao, and photos of the three of us. I left nothing behind. After a busy day, Su Leao and GU Qianyu returned in the evening, bringing Song Jingnian with them. The moment they saw me, their faces turned cold, and they started scolding me. "Young Shun, why did you send people to pour paint all over Jingnian's house? He had nowhere to live and was forced to resign. If Leao and I hadn't gone to great lengths to persuade him to come back, he would really be gone by now. How far are you going to take this farce? You used to be so obedient and sensible, so why have you become so evasive since Jingnian showed up? Am I the one who changed? Or is it them?" Watching their indignant expressions, my eyes were filled with deep fatigue. I no longer wanted to make pointless excuses. My silence, in the eyes of the two women, was an admission of guilt. GU Qianyu held back her anger and said coldly, "Jingnian can't live in his house now, so he will stay with us for a while. You caused this mess, and your room is the best, so your punishment is to give your room to Jingnian." I glanced at him, unwilling to argue, and simply put the key on the table. "Fine, I'm leaving anyway." Immediately after, Su Leao frowned and added, "Jingnian is allergic to pollen, so no more fresh flowers are allowed in the house." I looked at her as well, then called the housekeeper and instructed him to remove the large patch of roses in the back garden overnight. Su Leiyao had planted the large patch of roses in the back garden because I loved them. Now that I was planning to break up with her, those tokens of our love were meant to be removed anyway. After all this, the two were still not satisfied and continued. Jingnian is a light sleeper and can't stand any noise. Meow Meow is too noisy. You are not allowed to let her out anymore. Meow Meow was the cat they gave me to cheer me up, and she had kept me company for a long time. 2 hours later, staff from a pet agency came to the door, and I boarded my 5-year-old cat. Seeing my submissive attitude, Su Leiyao and Jiu Chenyu sensed something unusual. I offered no explanation and went upstairs alone. I looked at the empty new room and felt a strange sense of relief. I was leaving soon anyway, and these things needed to be cleared out. I didn't want to leave any trace of myself behind. Late that night, a continuous knocking broke the silence. When I opened the door, awakened by the noise, I saw Song Jingnian. He raised his hand, showing off a limited edition designer watch on his wrist, a smug look on his face. Mr. Gu, President Gu gave me this morning, but I don't know the brand. Can you help me check the style and how much it's worth? During this period, while waiting to leave, I didn't want to have any interaction with him, so the moment I opened the door and saw him, I immediately planned to close it. But that watch made my pupils contract. It was the last item my parents left us, the 2 siblings. Why would Qianyu give it to an outsider? How could she possibly give you this watch? Give it back! My expression drastically changed. I instinctively wanted to take the watch back. Seeing me reach out, a smirk appeared on Song Jingnian's face, and he turned and ran. I chased after him, about to call out to him when I saw him look back, smiling smugly at me. Then, he spread his arms and fell down the stairs with a crash. The sudden loud noise startled Su Leiyao and Jiu Qianyu, who were discussing work in the study. Both were horrified to see Song Jingnian lying in a pool of blood, unconscious. Su Leiyao rushed downstairs, held him tightly in her arms, and frantically shouted, "Wake up! Wake up!" Jiu Qianyu grabbed my hand even more forcefully, angrily questioning, "I knew you were only pretending to be obedient yesterday? You've been trying to find ways to bully Jingnian behind our backs. Jiu Yunshen, you disappoint me too much." Song Jingnian's injuries were severe and couldn't be delayed. The two quickly drove him to the hospital, forcefully dragging me along before they left, insisting that I apologize to Song Jingnian immediately. Shortly after Song Jingnian was wheeled into the operating room, the nurse rushed out in a panic. "The patient has lost too much blood. Who has Rh-negative blood?" Almost instantly, Jiu Qianyu and Su Leiyao grabbed my hands. I was so angry that I violently shook off their hands. "I won't. Why should I donate blood to him? His fall was a setup." My words infuriated both of them. Jiu Qianyu took off the watch, held it up high, and threatened. "Jiu Yangshun, if you don't go, I'll smash this watch. Consider it an apology to Jingnian. If you don't go and something happens to Jingnian, we will cancel the engagement." The two spoke in unison, venting their dissatisfaction for a man who staged his own injury. I felt like I was struck by lightning. My chest was so clogged with suppressed anger that it was almost bursting with pain. I stared at Jiu Qianyu, choking out, "So you really gave him Mom and Dad's relic?" Then I looked at Su Leiyao, my eyes terrifyingly red. "So in your heart, our years of relationship are not even comparable to a Song Jingnian?" The two women were stunned by my words. Before they could speak, I violently snatched the watch from Jiu Qianyu's hand and said word by word, "Remember this, it's the 96th time." Finally, I donated 600 cc of blood in one go. After resting for a long time, I left the ward, my legs still weak and needing support. Jiu Yanyu and Su Leiyao still wouldn't let me go, insisting on waiting until Song Jingnian woke up before they felt relieved. I finally left the hospital the next morning. I held onto the railing and slowly walked down the stairs. Just as I reached the intersection, I received a message from Song Jingnian. "How does it feel to be framed and unable to explain? Jiu Yangshun, you will never defeat me in this life. They are all not on your side. You must be very sad, right? It's okay, I've prepared a surprise for you. Remember to check it out." Surprise? Remembering the various pranks and schemes he had orchestrated before, my heart sank. I touched the needle mark on my arm and was about to hail a taxi when a speeding car rushed toward me and crashed straight into me. I didn't have time to dodge. My body was flung several meters away like a kite with a broken string. The pain coming from all over my body made me feel like I was being torn apart. My consciousness became hazy. In my semi-conscious state, I felt someone send me to the operating room. The surrounding voices were noisy. That Mr. Song clearly woke up yesterday and is fine now, but he insists on saying he's uncomfortable here and in pain there. As a result, President Ji-yu and President Soo hired out the hospital and mobilized all the doctors who can perform surgery to examine him. Now this Mr. Ji-yu suddenly had a car accident, and there isn't even a doctor to perform the surgery. What should we do? Hurry up and ask if they can spare a doctor for the surgery. 10 minutes later, someone rushed back, their voice full of helplessness. They won't agree. They insist we transfer the injured person to another hospital and said they would fully cover the costs. Transfer? He's so badly injured. How can he survive a transfer? Is only that Mr. Song's life valuable and everyone else's lives are worthless? The clamor of arguments was in my ears, but I felt like I couldn't hear anything clearly. A mist spread before my eyes. In a daze, I seemed to see the past. In the past, if I just had a cold and a fever, Ji-yu Qianyu would be incredibly worried and would invite many doctors for consultation. Su Liao would stay by my side every step of the way, and she would take whatever medicine I took, just to cheer me up. But those were things from a long, long time ago. Now I was on the brink of death, alone, without even a doctor. My eyelids felt as heavy as if they were filled with lead. The willpower supporting me gradually faded. Before completely losing consciousness, I only managed to mutter one unclear thought. The 97th time. When I woke up, I saw two faces full of guilt. Ji-yu Gyanyu helped me sit up, his tone laced with apology. Young-sun, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have let you be discharged alone. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Su Liao brought a cup of hot water, intending to feed it to me, her eyes overflowing with distress. Weren't you perfectly fine when you left? How could you be hit by a car? Remembering the messages I received just before the accident, my voice turned sharp the moment I opened my eyes, and I questioned Song Jingnian. The implication was that Song Jingnian was behind everything. Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Liao's expressions froze, instantly turning grim. Young-sun, why are you still slandering Jingnian? How could a boy from a mountain village possibly plan such a thing? Exactly. Jingnian is still lying in the hospital. How would he have time to go and harm you? Seeing their conviction, I didn't want to waste any more breath. I closed my eyes, my voice heavy with exhaustion. I'm tired. Please, just leave. Seeing my pale face, the two women finally held their tongues. They left the hospital room, one after the other. A few minutes later, the phone on my desk rang. Mingshun, I've arranged everything. You should be leaving in about a week. Understood. I follow the organization's orders. I can leave at any time. Before I could finish speaking, the door was pushed open. Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Liao walked in, their brows furrowed, looking at me suspiciously. Leaving what? Where are you going? I calmly hung up the phone. I was asking about being discharged. Why did you come back? Su Liao picked up the car keys she had left behind and was about to question me further when a nurse rushed in and called them away. President Ji-yu, Miss Su, Mr. Song just threw up. Watching their hurried backs disappear through the door, I smiled soundlessly. In the following days, the two women rarely appeared. Even when they did visit, they would only sit for a while before finding an excuse to leave. I knew they were busy taking care of Song Jingnian. After all, I received various photos and videos from him every day. Ji-yu Qianyu, personally cooking chicken soup for him. Su Liao blowing on a spoonful to cool it down before feeding it to him. And the limited edition sneakers she bought to cheer him up piled up, taking up a large part of the ward. I watched in silence, never replying once. I was discharged alone, without saying goodbye to anyone. Just as I reached the door and was entering the password, a van suddenly stopped behind me. 4 or 5 masked men struck me with a bat, knocking me unconscious. I don't know how much time passed, but when I opened my eyes, I saw Song Jingnian. He spent a long time tapping on his phone screen. He looked at me arrogantly. Good, you're awake. I just sent a text message to Miss Su and President Ji-yu saying you and my colleague were kidnapped. Mr. Ji-yu, guess who they will be most concerned about? Hearing this, I stared intently at Song Jingnian, desperately wanting to ask why he was repeating these tiresome tricks. But my mouth was gagged, and I couldn't make any sound other than a muffled whimper. My body hadn't fully recovered, making it impossible to break free from my restraints. A few minutes later, the kidnappers in the back seat guarded me as they tied Song Jingnian up and dragged him to the car. When the door opened, I saw a rushing river in front of us, and several sports cars speeding toward us in the distance. Once Jiu Qianyu and Su Leiyao got out of their cars, Song Jingnian immediately switched to a pitiful expression. The kidnappers promptly held knives to our necks. "Did you bring the money?" Su Leiyao had someone toss over a dozen boxes onto the ground. Her expression was grim. "The 30 million you asked for. Not a cent less, let them go." The kidnappers exchanged a glance and sneered. "Our condition was 30 million per person. You can only save one. You choose." In the chilling wind, I saw the two women's faces turn incredibly difficult. Jiu Qianyu was furious, but didn't dare provoke them. She could only suppress her anger and negotiate. "Wait for half an hour. The remaining 30 million will be delivered immediately." "We can't wait. Who knows if you'll call the police? Choose one first. We'll throw the other into the river to feed the fish." Song Jingnian cried even more hysterically, constantly struggling. The kidnapper took off his gag. "Miss Su, President Jiu, save me! I can't swim and I don't want to die!" Provoked to fury, Su Leiyao and Jiu Qianyu continued to negotiate, eventually raising the ransom to 100 million. Watching this spectacle unfold, I remained perfectly calm. The kidnappers still refused to agree and even started a countdown. The two women struggled visibly, their eyes darting between the bound Song Jingnian and me. When the count reached 3, the kidnappers pushed the upper halves of our bodies over the edge of the bridge. Song Jingnian shrieked. Jiu Qianyu finally lost her composure and shouted, "Save Jingnian first. He saved us. We must repay his kindness first. Young Shun, trust your sister. I will definitely save you." Su Leiao's face was filled with determination as she echoed her. "Jingnian, he can't swim. Young Shun, don't worry, we'll come and save you right away." Seeing them so guilty that they couldn't even look me in the eye, the calm on my face finally shattered. I had anticipated this outcome the moment they hesitated, but hearing them say it out loud severed the last thread of hope in my heart. I couldn't help but laugh, my eyes filled with boundless sorrow. Once the choice was made, Song Jingnian was thrown onto the ground and I was pushed off the high bridge. I closed my eyes in despair, watching the two women rush towards Song Jingnian. The cold wind cut my skin like a knife. No blood flowed, yet I felt as if I was being slowly flayed alive. A dense, pervasive pain invaded every part of my body, making life unbearable. A flurry of images flashed through my mind. My sister, who swore to always protect me, sobbing while embracing me at our parents' tombstone after they were killed. My girlfriend, who, on the day she confessed, held a large bouquet of roses and a love letter, promising to love me for a lifetime. The three of us raising a toast on New Year's Eve, vowing to walk hand in hand for many, many years. Just like that, we went our separate ways. The icy river water pulled me down. My consciousness grew hazy, and the strength slowly drained from my body. I smelled the familiar scent of disinfectant, and I knew I was back in the hospital. I felt as if my whole body had been torn apart, forcing my eyelids open. I met two pairs of caring eyes. "Young son, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have let you be discharged alone. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Jingnian is an innocent victim. Young Sun, please forgive me, okay? When you fell into the water, we jumped in immediately. But Jingnian can't swim, and he saved our lives, so we didn't dare take the risk. I could only let you suffer. I promise you there won't be a next time." These words were so familiar they made my ears buzz. I didn't vent my anger, nor did I have the strength to question them. I only murmured one indistinct thought. The 98th time. After a day of rest, I finally returned home safely. When I pushed open the door, I saw the living room decorated with balloons and suddenly remembered it was my birthday. Su Leiyao personally presented the cake, and Jiu Qianyu, having removed her apron, had cooked a table full of food, celebrating my birthday just as in previous years. But no trace of happiness showed on my face. I sat formally at the table, listened to the birthday song, and blew out the candles. Just as I was about to make a wish, the front door was pushed open with a bang. Song Jingnian, soaking wet and red-eyed, looked at the scene in the house and spoke piteously. President Gu, Miss Su, so you were celebrating Mr. Gu's birthday. I originally wanted to tell you something important. Since you're all busy, I won't bother you. With that, he ran out. The moment he finished speaking, the two women got up without hesitation. With a heart turned to ash, I didn't try to stop them. I calmly closed my eyes and continued making my wish. May Su Liao and Ji Qianyu have no misfortune in the future, and may they find joy without me. In the evening, I saw a post from Song Jingnian on his Moments feed. It was a photo taken in the hospital, with the two women, these, favored daughters of heaven, guarding him on either side. The caption read, "All it takes is one word from me, and you'll abandon everything to be with me." I calmly turned off my phone and was about to go upstairs. The next second, the door opened. Ji Qianyu and Su Liao looked downcast and haggard, as if something terrible had happened. Associating this with Song Jingnian's hospital post, a bad feeling flashed through my mind. As expected, Ji Qianyu walked toward me and said, "Young Sun, Jingnian has cancer." Cancer. I wasn't shocked to hear this, not because I was cold-hearted, but because I had already seen through all of Song Jingnian's tricks. Why would a life enjoying the pampering of two women suddenly be afflicted with cancer? He must be after something. Sure enough, I heard Ji Qianyu continue. During the earthquake back then, Jingnian risked his life to save Liao and me. We only survived because of him. I already see him as my own brother. Now that he has a terminal illness, his only wish is for Liao to accompany him on his final journey and hold a fake wedding. My mind went blank for a moment. My first instinct was to look at Su Liao, who had been silent since entering the room. "I agree," Su Liao said, her voice sharp with strain. I replied calmly, "I understand. Saving a life is a great deed. Do as you wish." Seeing me agree so quickly, Ji Qianyu and Su Liao looked surprised and delighted. They didn't think too much of it, simply complimented me a few times and left in a hurry. I watched their retreating figures and let out a soft laugh. A wedding can be fake. No matter if it's real or fake, it no longer matters. I will be leaving soon and none of it will have anything to do with me. After a night of hasty preparation, the wedding began in the hotel ballroom. Although they called it fake, both the scale and the guests were top-notch. I sat alone in a corner, facing the probing gazes from all directions with a look of indifference. When the wedding march started, I watched as Ji Qianyu slowly walked onto the stage, holding Song Jingnian's arm and handed him over to Su Liao. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, enveloped in the blessings and applause of the entire audience. I sat in a corner, a large flower stand shielding my figure. I don't know how long passed, but I was startled awake by a burst of unrestrained laughter. Exactly. I just forged a cancer medical record and bribed a few doctors, and they believed it. The voice grew clearer. I opened my eyes and was met with Song Jingnian's gaze as he walked over. In a flash, Song Jingnian hung up the phone. A hint of panic flashed across his face, but he quickly pretended that nothing was wrong. "Why are you here? Did you just hear something?" I glanced at him, my face cold. I didn't hear anything, and what if I did? Even if I told them, they wouldn't believe it. Without waiting for Song Jingnian's reaction, I stood up and left. Song Jingnian naturally didn't believe me. He was nervous and flustered all day, but when he didn't see me report him, this calm reaction made him increasingly uneasy. He thought about it all night and finally decided he couldn't sit by and wait. The next day, when the house was mostly empty, he poured several bottles of beer in the hallway and lit a fire. Thick smoke billowed up. When the fire was at its fiercest, Song Jingnian cried as he called Su Liao. Quote, "Liao, where are you? My bedroom is on fire and I can't get out. Hurry up and save me." I was also woken up by the smoke. I called 119, then dampened a cloth in the bathroom, covered my nose and mouth, and ran downstairs. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I ran head-on into Ji Qianyu and Su Liao, who had rushed in. The two women, distraught and panicked, didn't see my figure obscured by the smoke. They ran frantically toward the stairs. Despite the raging fire and falling wooden beams, they didn't retreat, heading together toward the master bedroom where the fire was worst. A few minutes later, I watched them rush out, shielding Song Jingnian. My fingers involuntarily clenched into fists. My bedroom was right by the stairs, yet from start to finish, the two of them didn't spare it a glance. It was as if they had completely forgotten that I was still in the house. The firefighters arrived quickly and extinguished the fire. They also listed the cause of the fire. Hearing the words arson, Song Jingnian, who was crying uncontrollably in Su Leiao's arms, looked up with red eyes, his face full of despair as he looked at me. Mr. Ji Yu, I know you're unhappy that Miss Su and I are getting married, but I just wanted to fulfill a final wish. If you didn't want the wedding to happen, it could have been canceled. Why would you lock me in the room and try to burn me alive? In an instant, all the shocked and confused eyes turned to me. My heart sank. I looked up, intending to explain, when Ji Yu Qianyu slapped me hard across the face. I only thought you were being willful, but I never imagined you would become so arrogant as to do something so harmful. Young-sun, have you forgotten the police uniform our parents wore? They taught us to be people of integrity. Are you worthy of them? With a sharp smack, my face flushed red. All the words I hadn't had time to say were stuck on my lips. This was the first time Ji Yu Qianyu had ever hit me in 23 years, and she had done so without question for an outsider. Staring straight at the person in front of me, emotions churning in my heart, my lips trembled unconsciously. Su Leiyao helped Song Jingnian stand up, her gaze full of disappointment as she looked at me. I planned this entire wedding. Jingnian was always worried about your feelings and advised me many times to cancel it. I only went ahead after getting your agreement. Why are you acting one way in front of us and another behind our backs? Even if you're angry and want to settle a score, you should take it out on me, not on a terminally ill patient. Facing the furious Su Leiyao and Ji Yu Qianyu, I felt breathless. I opened my mouth and let out a heavy sigh, managing to pull my fleeting sanity back. The firefighters only investigated and found that someone had intentionally started the fire. They didn't say I did it. Did you only listen to him and decide it was me? Second, I know my parents were police officers, and I, Ji Yu Young-sun, am a person of integrity and worthy of everyone. I would never do anything so harmful. Third, I don't care if the wedding is real or fake. And as for the terminal illness, as I explained, my words forceful and clear, the anger-blinded Ji Yu Qianyu and Su Leiyao slowly began to calm down. Hearing the words terminal illness, Song Jingnian immediately lost his footing. Terrified they would discover the truth, and he fainted. The sudden turn of events panicked the two women. They no longer cared to listen to my explanation. Before leaving, Ji Yu Qianyu called the housekeeper, her voice colder than a winter frost. Lock the young master up in the Southgate Villa. Unless he apologizes to Jingnian, no one is allowed to let him out without my permission. Watching their retreating figures, I whispered one last thought. The 99th time. For the 5 days I was locked in the villa, I didn't leave the room once. Apart from the meals delivered on time, no one came to see me. Days passed, and soon the date I had agreed upon with Captain C arrived. In the morning, just as I was wondering what violent means I should use to escape and rejoin the team, I suddenly heard a commotion downstairs. It was Ji Yu Qianyu and Su Leiyao returning with Song Jingnian. Before long, the door that had been locked for days was opened. The two women, their faces cold, walked in. I said nothing, turned, and went downstairs. Song Jingnian was waiting in the living room. The moment he saw me, he started speaking pitifully. Mr. Ji Yu, my apologies for what happened before. It was my fault, and I apologize to you. Hearing this, Su Leiyao and Ji Yu Qianyu frowned. He should be apologizing to you. Jingnian, you don't need to be so humble. I ignored them, changed my shoes, and prepared to leave. Ji Yu Qianyu suddenly had a bad premonition and rushed forward to grab me. Where are you going? I looked back at him, a sarcastic smile on my face. It's Mom and Dad's death anniversary today. Did you forget? The wind in the mountains was strong, making my clothes flap loudly. I placed the chrysanthemums in my hand down and kowtowed heavily several times before the tombstone. Seeing the blood seeping from my forehead, Su Leiyao and Ji Yu Qianyu were distressed and immediately pulled me up. That's enough. Mom and Dad know your feelings. There's no need to hurt yourself like this. If you're well, your aunt and uncle will be happy watching from heaven. Don't ever do anything that harms yourself again. Be good. Song Jingnian, standing by, saw this and followed suit, kowtowing until his forehead bled, letting out a soft groan. Instantly, the two women released me and turned to cradle him in their arms, their eyes filled with heartache. Young-shun, kowtowing is appropriate, but Jingnian, You don't need to kneel down, too. Song Jingnian blinked his eyes, forcing out a few tears. I know Uncle Ji-yu and Aunt Ji-yu were great heroes, and I know Miss Sue sees me as a younger brother. In my heart, I am already a member of the Ji-yu family, so this kowtow is absolutely necessary. Seeing his dutiful behavior, Ji-yu Chihan-yu paused, and the look in his eyes toward me became complicated. Su Liao also sighed admiringly, bent down to brush the dust off his knees, and when she saw the blood on his forehead increasing, she rushed down the mountain to get a bandage. Ji-yu Qianyu was also greatly distressed, remembering there was disinfectant in the car, and hurried down with her. Soon, only Song Jingnian and I were left in the cemetery. Without others present, Song Jingnian stopped pretending to be weak. He began to challenge Ji-yu Young-shun arrogantly. The two women who loved you the most now only listen to me. Aren't you terribly upset? So what if you're the young master of a wealthy family? You still lost to me. I ignored him. I quietly threw the joss paper into the burning basin and murmured, Mom and Dad, I've decided to carry on your legacy. I will no longer exist in this world, but I believe you will understand my choice. With a clang, the blazing fire basin was kicked over by Song Jingnian. Sparks flew out, leaving red marks all over my hands. I couldn't restrain myself any longer. I stepped forward and fiercely slapped him. Song Jingnian, are you crazy? I'm warning you, don't provoke me again, or I'll expose everything you've done. Song Jingnian seemed not to have expected me to hit him directly. After a moment of rage, he scoffed, Go ahead and expose me! I'm telling you, no matter what you say, they won't believe it. He was absolutely right. So this time, I wouldn't say another word. I gave him a cold look and turned to leave. Song Jingnian chased after me and grabbed my hand. Ji-yu Young-shun, don't be so cruel. I hate that look on your face. So what if you're the young master? Before long, your sister and your girlfriend will all be mine. Just you wait and see. I tried to shake him off, but Song Jingnian held on tighter. In the struggle, we lost our balance and tumbled down the steep steps. I was at the bottom, my head hitting the wall directly. Blood dripped down from my hairline. In the agonizing pain, my vision went black. I reached for the wound and only felt sticky, metallic-smelling blood. My will to fight dissipated, and I had no strength left, only able to gasp for breath as I lay in the pool of blood. As light gradually returned to my eyes, I heard two anxious voices. Jingnian, how did you fall down the steps and get hurt? And you're bleeding so much. Are you in pain? Don't worry, Big Sister will take you to the hospital right away. Song Jingnian cried and whimpered in pain, large tears falling down. After you left, Mr. Ji-yu blamed me and Miss Sue for having the wedding. He said he wanted to teach me a lesson and pushed me down. Hearing this, Su Liao and Ji-yu Qianyu's faces darkened instantly. They looked coldly at the person lying on the ground, past their limit. Ji-yu Young-sun, how long are you going to keep acting up? Doing this kind of thing in front of your aunt and uncle's graves? Aren't you afraid they'll see? Ji-yu Young-shun, you've disappointed me so much. This is my final warning. If you continue to harm Jingnian without restraint, I, Ji-yu Qianyu, will disown you as my brother. Watching them protect Song Jingnian, the last flicker of light in my eyes went out. I looked at the scarlet-red ground soaked with my own blood and squeezed out a few words from my throat, answering them. The 100th time, as you wished. The two women furrowed their brows, not understanding the meaning of my words, but preoccupied with Song Jingnian's injuries. They didn't press me. The two helped Song Jingnian up and left. Before leaving, only one heartless sentence echoed in the wind. You stay here and reflect properly. We will come back for you when you've understood your mistake. Watching their hurried retreat, I shook my head with difficulty, my voice barely a whisper. I won't be coming back. I will never come back. Warm tears slid down my cheeks and slowly dried, leaving no trace. When the bleeding stopped, I finally regained some strength and struggled to walk down the mountain. Dark red blood left long traces on the steps. A car was parked at the bottom of the mountain. Captain Da, who had been waiting for a long time, smelled the blood on me and was shocked. He quickly stepped forward to support me. What happened? I waved my hand, my voice hoarse. It's nothing, just a fall. It's a shocking fake death, right? Seeing no obvious wounds on me, Captain C didn't question it further. He nodded. When he looked back at me, his tone became extremely solemn. Comrade Ji-yu Youngshin, welcome to the Setting Sun operation. From today onward, all your previous identity information will be erased. You have no name, no identity, but you are a hero respected by all. Police badge number 014890 is officially reactivated. Salute! I slowly raised my hand and saluted him, my eyes filled with mountainous resolve, devoted to the country, steadfast and unwavering. After the car door was closed, a dummy body wearing clothes identical to mine was thrown onto the road. A speeding truck dragged it forward, slowly crushing it into a bloody mess. After performing a preliminary examination on Song Jingnian and confirming he was not injured, Su Liao and Ji Chanyu breathed a sigh of relief. The doctor nearby looked at the medical report, his tone full of confusion. Since there are no open wounds, why was there so much blood? Were there other injured people at the scene? Hearing this, the scene of me lying in a pool of blood flashed before the two women's eyes. Their eyelids twitched, but this thought only lasted a moment before it was dispelled by Song Jingnian's words. After I fell, Mr. Ji-yu took a bag of blood plasma and poured it on the ground, then lay down too. That's where the blood came from. The doctor looked at him in surprise, about to object when he saw Ji Qianyu nod with a dark expression. He's certainly not doing this for the first time. Jingnian, don't worry, I will definitely get justice for you. Song Jingnian was moved to tears. Su Liao gently rubbed his simulated injuries, comforting him incessantly. After he was settled, the two women exited the ward only to be stopped by the doctor waiting at the door. Misters, I tested the blood on the patient. It was not blood plasma. It was human blood. I suggest you bring the other injured person in for an examination as soon as possible to prevent any lasting side effects. So much blood, and it wasn't blood plasma, nor was it Song Jingnian's. Could it really be Ji-yu Youngsun's? The two women's hearts sank. Just as they were about to turn back and ask Song Jingnian what exactly had happened, they heard the supposedly sleeping man burst into laughter, his tone full of malicious joy. You have no idea how pathetic he looked, running around like a dog being toyed with by me. A few days ago, I set a fire. He got slapped and locked up for days. Today, he was left bleeding from his head, and no one cared for him. Do you think he'll die in the cemetery? Bang! The door was kicked open. Song Jingnian jumped in shock, his phone smashing to the floor. He looked at the two women who had returned, his mind blank. Sister Qianyu, Sister Liao, why are you back? The two women's faces were so grim they looked like they could drip water. They strode over to him. Ji Qianyu grabbed his collar, pulled him up, and sternly questioned, You set the fire? The blood was Youngshin's. Why did you lie to us? Shadows gathered in Su Liao's eyes, no longer showing her former gentleness. We treated you kindly. Why did you twist black and white to frame Youngshun? Under the immense pressure, Song Jingnian was frantic, but still feigned ignorance. What are you talking about? How could I do such a thing? Once suspicion takes root, it grows like wildfire. Recalling everything that had happened recently, the two women exchanged looks, both seeing doubt in the other's eyes. Looking at his tearful, pathetic face, Su Liao had no more pity. She called the nurse and scheduled a full-body examination, the first item being oncology. Song Jingnian's face instantly went pale. He frantically shook his head, his voice full of resistance. Sister Liao, my body is fine. I don't need a checkup. If you're worried about me, let's go to Hexi Hospital, okay? His completely distraught state immediately alerted Ji Qianyu. He stared at Song Jingnian. His words practically gritted out. Early-stage cancer can be checked anywhere. Why must it be Hexi Hospital? Can't the hospital here find it? Song Jingnian's lips trembled non-stop, but he couldn't utter a single word. Tears fell like broken strings of pearls, but this time, no one wiped them away. He was forcibly led into the examination room by the nurse. Half an hour later, the results were out. After checking, we confirmed that Mr. Song's body is very healthy. There is no sign of cancerous change. Although they had already guessed it, hearing the result still made Su Liao and Ji Qianyu gasp for air. Both visibly slumped, collapsing weakly onto chairs, the former light in their eyes gone. The cancer was fake. The blood was mine from the fall. The fire was set by Song Jingnian himself. What about the kidnapping, the car accident, the paint pouring, the hair cutting? Recalling everything that had happened over the past year, the two women felt a sense of absurdity, their voices full of confusion. If all of this was orchestrated by Song Jingnian, did we wrong Young Shun? If it was all a false accusation, why didn't Young Shun say anything? Ji Yukianyu's question trailed off. The two of them simultaneously remembered the scenes right after every incident and fell silent. Every time they arrived, they conveniently saw Song Jingnian being yelled at or injured. Could there really be so many coincidences in the world? Thinking this, Su Liao became inexplicably panicky. She took out her phone and checked the time. It was already 5 p.m. 5 hours had passed since they left the cemetery. During that time, there was not a single call or message from me. Was he seriously injured and unconscious, or was he truly angry and didn't want to talk to them? Ji Yuqianyu was also nervous and quickly tried to contact me. He called a dozen times, but my phone remained switched off. On the 28th call, Su Liao finally couldn't sit still and headed for the garage. Ji Yuqianyu followed her. The two drove to the villa first. When the housekeeper said he hadn't seen me all day, their hearts pounded faster. They rushed to the cemetery in a panic. Halfway there, they received a call from the police. "Miss Ji Yu, we have arrested the suspects in the kidnapping case. They have confessed that the kidnapping was orchestrated by a person named Song Jingnian. Do you have time to come to the station to identify them?" This news was like a thunderbolt to Su Liao and Ji Yuqianyu. They never imagined that Song Jingnian could be so utterly deranged. They had given him so much trust and affection. Why would he do such divisive things? Ji Yuqianyu violently slammed the steering wheel, with only one thought in his mind: to go back to the hospital and settle the score with Song Jingnian. Although Su Liao was also furious, she retained a basic level of rationality. "Let's find Youngshun first. It's so cold, I'm worried about his safety." Ji Yuqianyu nodded heavily and sped up. In the darkness of the night, the area outside the cemetery was flashing with lights. The intermittent wail of police sirens, like daylight, made Ji Yuqianyu and Su Liao uneasy. Seeing the police tape, both realized something terrible had happened. They parked the car and rushed over, wanting to see what had occurred. Before they got close, they were stopped by a police officer. "There was a car accident ahead. The police are investigating. This road is temporarily closed. Please turn back." The words struck Su Liao and Ji Yuqianyu like lightning. The two women stood frozen, their faces showing disbelief. Ji Yuqianyu's throat bobbed a few times as he struggled to speak. We are looking for someone. My younger brother came to sweep the grave today and hasn't returned." The officer keenly sensed something unusual. He took out his phone, opened his photo album, and showed them the scene photos he had just taken. "Was your brother wearing a black coat today?" Seeing the fragmented, patched-together black coat on the screen, and the familiar white chrysanthemum brooch on the chest, Ji Yuqianyu's eyes rolled back. Su Liao barely managed to support him, her heart pounding violently, her hands clenched tightly. Holding onto a final sliver of delusion, she pressed, Where did you find this coat? Youngshun. Where is Youngshun?" The officer sighed heavily and shook his head gently. "Your brother was in a car accident this afternoon. He has passed away. Please accept our condolences." Passed away? How could that be? When they left the cemetery this afternoon, he was fine and had spoken to them. How could he be dead only half a day later? Ji Yuqianyu and Su Liao could not accept this result. They pushed past the police tape like mad, trying to break through the crowd to deny the reality. But when they pushed through the people, lifted the white sheet, and saw the mangled flesh beneath, they finally completely broke down. The two women, who were so proud and peerless in public, wailed like children at that moment. The heartbroken cries pierced the silent night, echoing through the mountains for a long time. When she woke up and saw the white walls, Su Liao felt like she had a nightmare. She dreamed that I had died. But how could a perfectly fine person have an accident? She shook her head constantly, trying to banish the thought from her mind. But when she turned and saw Ji Yuqianyu squatting in the corner, his face numb, she felt as if her throat was squeezed shut, unable to breathe. The unshakable bad premonition took root and grew in her body. Her lips trembled with agitation, desperately wanting to confirm this was just a dream. The ward door was pushed open. Several police officers walked in with a folder. Miss Su, Miss Ji-yu. The medical examiner's report has confirmed that the victim of the car accident is Mr. Ji-yu Young-shun. The two women simultaneously looked up, screaming through their tear-reddened eyes. Impossible! We saw Young-shun yesterday. He was fine. How could he have an accident? My parents were police officers. My brother went to the police academy. He's not like ordinary people. He can't be dead. The junior officers were afraid they might faint from shock, and quickly tried to console them. The officer in charge of the case adjusted his glasses. Once they calmed down, he told them the specific details. We checked the cemetery surveillance. Mr. Ji-yu fell from a height and had a head injury. After you arrived, you only rescued the other gentleman. He was alone in the cemetery, lying there for over an hour before he managed to get down the mountain. But because of severe blood loss, he collapsed unconscious on the road and was run over and dragged to death by a large truck. Just hearing the description, Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Leyao could imagine the horrific scene. The police handed over several screenshots from the surveillance. Seeing the bloodstains covering the steps and the figure unconscious on the road, Ji-yu Qianyu cried bitterly. Su Leyao clutched the photos tightly, her eyes vacant. Her mind kept replaying the last glimpse she had when she helped Song Jingnian leave the cemetery yesterday noon. I was lying in a pool of blood, still and silent. In that moment, she had briefly thought about turning back to take me with her, but in the end, she didn't turn around. And so, that separation, that last look, became the final farewell. After the police's full search, they only recovered 60% of the body's tissues. Reading the words on the incident report, severe dragging and crushing, unable to distinguish features, Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Liao's blood ran cold. They couldn't imagine what kind of suffering I endured before death. My bones broken one by one, my flesh scraped and crushed, not a single intact piece of skin on my entire body. The piercing pains spread from their hearts to their extremities, making both of them miserable. They had cried all their tears in the past few days, and couldn't cry anymore. They could only fiercely scratch their hands, which were covered in bloodstains, hoping to stop the mental pain with physical pain. Seeing their condition, the forensic doctor sighed and handed them a document. The deceased's remains are severely damaged. I suggest you send him for cremation as soon as possible so the deceased can rest in peace. Ji-yu Qianyu's hands trembled as he signed his name on the family member line. The last stroke of the pen fell, and Ji-yu Qianyu felt the last bit of strength that had supported him until today dissipate. Beside him, Su Leyao stared blankly at the white sheet, her eyes dull and lifeless. The room was in complete silence. After an unknown period, the secretary walked in and quietly reported, "Miss Su, President Ji-yu, the matter you asked me to investigate has been confirmed. We showed photos of Mr. Song and Mr. Ji-yu to the Earthquake Rescue Organization. They stated that the person who risked his life to save people back then was Mr. Ji-yu. The organization members had all concluded that no one was alive in the area, but he insisted on digging through the rubble. He worked alone in the affected area for 2 days and only then rescued both of you. In the end, he collapsed from exhaustion and needed a long time to recover." This news pierced Su Leyao and Ji-yu Qianyu's hearts like a sharp blade. The two women jolted, and the color drained completely from their haggard faces. It turned out that the person who saved their lives was not Song Jingnian at all, but me, the one they had favored against, repeatedly hurt, and ultimately abandoned. In an instant, their hearts felt as if they were being scorched by a raging fire, utterly tormented, and the news that shook their souls did not stop. We also investigated the group of thugs who threw the paint before. They confessed that everything was orchestrated by Song Jingnian. Even the previous robbery and the harassment at the bar were staged by them. These belated truths seemed so absurd and ridiculous in the face of the tragic reality. Their self-righteous repayment of a supposed debt was, in fact, an act of ingratitude and harm against their true savior. How disappointed and heartbroken I must have been, hurt again and again by the sister and girlfriend I trusted and loved the most. Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Leyao dared not delve further into the thought. Guilt and remorse surged over them like a tidal wave, completely submerging them. For the first time, in front of my supposed corpse, the two women spoke the words, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my brother. Young Fen, I watched you grow up. How could I ever suspect you of those things? You must hate your sister so much. I shouldn't have left you in the cemetery. I caused your tragic death in that desolate place. Mom and Dad must be heartbroken to see this from heaven. That day, I should have taken you with me. Clearly, you were the one in the most pain. How could I have just left? I promised to take care of you for a lifetime, yet I hurt you the deepest. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Desperate weeping echoed in the room, but no one would answer it now. My funeral was held in Nanshan Cemetery, which was close to the martyrs, cemetery, quiet and secluded. On the day of the burial, Jiyu Qianyu carried the urn, and Su Liao held my photo as they walked up the mountain in the light rain. Aside from a small number of Jiyu family members, the attendees were my former classmates and friends. Looking at the photo in black and white, everyone was in disbelief. How could a perfectly healthy person suddenly be gone? Because the news of my death came so suddenly, everyone was heavy-hearted and couldn't help but ask what had happened. I saw Young Shun a month ago. I invited him to my wedding in 2 months, and he agreed to come. How could this happen? I heard it was a car accident. Qianyu, what exactly happened? We watched young Kun grow up. Tell us the truth. He's your little brother, and he died young. Why didn't you even hold a proper farewell ceremony as his sister? Facing the inquiries and doubts, Jiyu Qianyu knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily to the elders, her voice filled with grief. It's my fault. I, as his sister, failed in my responsibility. I killed Young Shun. If I hadn't argued with him without knowing the truth, he wouldn't have been in trouble, wouldn't have collapsed on the road, and wouldn't have been hit by a car. Su Liao, consumed by guilt, could no longer bear the pressure and also knelt before the tombstone. I am also at fault. I disappointed Young Shun. I shouldn't have blindly trusted Song Jingnian. When he was in the deepest pain and sorrow, I stood idly by. I don't deserve to be his girlfriend. Listening to the two women's heartbroken repentance, everyone fell silent. The Jiyu family elders sighed, their eyes filled only with boundless disappointment toward them. Qianyu, your parents died young. You raised Young Shun yourself. He was sensible and obedient from childhood. No matter what happened, he kept it inside just to keep you from worrying. I always thought you, as his sister, would be understanding of your brother, but how could you be so foolish? Young Shun is a kind child. You hurt him so deeply, for the sake of an outsider. Liao, what have you become? Jiyu Liao and Su Qianyu's faces slowly paled. The fine rain continued to fall. People came and went to pay their respects. As the sky darkened, the two still refused to leave. Gazing at the face frozen on the tombstone, Jiyu Qianyu felt a moment of daze. This photo was the one they personally took for my 18th birthday. At that time, Jiyu Qianyu's career was on the rise, the young couple's relationship was passionate, and the three of us had moved into a new villa, anticipating a happy future within reach. They believed all hardships were over, and that the rest of their lives would be smooth sailing. They never expected that just a few years later, everything would become a moon in the water, a flower in a mirror. And the culprit who destroyed all the beauty was none other than themselves. If only they had firmly stood by me. If only they had been more patient to investigate the truth. If only they had cared for me more. Everything would have been different. But there are no ifs in this world, and no cure for regret. Those unspoken apologies and endless guilt would accumulate in their hearts, becoming a never-healing, perpetual ache. On the 7th day of being locked in the mental hospital, Song Jingnian was on the verge of a complete mental breakdown from the torture. He hadn't slept a full night. Every time he woke up, he was confronted with torment from the room full of patients. These mental patients would force-feed him rotten food, purposely pull his head to hit the wall, and use small stone fragments to cut his hands, minor injuries that caused immense pain, with old wounds replacing new ones. Even his face was covered in countless blisters. Looking at the unrecognizable face in the mirror, Song Jingnian was at the brink of collapse. He crept to the door and knocked, desperately calling for help while the others in the room slept. However, the medical staff and workers ignored him as if they couldn't see him. Here, no one would respond to a madman's plea, especially one who had been specially instructed to be cared for. So, even though Song Jingnian shouted until his throat was burning, he received no response. Finally, he lost all hope and collapsed onto the ground. His once clear, bright eyes turned bloodshot, enveloped by exhaustion and despair. The weather was cold, and his exposed feet and legs quickly turned purple from the frost. Pus oozed from his unhealed wounds. He heard the sound of footsteps upstairs, and the fear that had momentarily subsided flared up again. They're awake. They're all awake. The nightmare is about to descend again. Song Jingyan curled up in the corner, his whole body shaking uncontrollably. Just as he was at his most terrified, two figures loomed over him. He looked up at the two familiar faces and immediately burst into tears, hugging their legs. "I know I was wrong, Sister Qianyu, Sister Liao. I shouldn't have harmed Mr. Jiyu. I promise you this kind of thing will never happen again. Please let me go for saving your lives. I will leave Huocheng tomorrow and never appear before you again. I swear." Seeing Song Jingyan, the two women found him utterly repulsive. Jiyu Qianyu lifted the foot and fiercely kicked him, showing no mercy. Su Leiao's gaze was colder than a winter frost. She held a key in her hand, weighing it, her voice utterly indifferent. "You want to leave? Fine. Answer a few questions truthfully. If you tell the truth, we'll give you the key. If there's a single lie, you'll stay here and live out the rest of your days." Hearing this, a glimmer of hope rekindled in Song Jingyan's heart. He quickly promised, "I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. Just please, let me go. We were nothing but kind to you. Why did you try to sow discord between us and young Shun?" Song Jingyan trembled, instinctively wanting to lie, but seeing their murderous glares, he dared not make up stories and poured out his true feelings. I just envied him for being cherished. I wanted to be like him, the young master of a wealthy family, living a carefree life. That's all. Just because of that selfish desire, he ended up dying tragically. Su Liao clenched her hands into fists, her nose stinging, and she closed her eyes. "You got everything you wanted, so why did you keep framing him again and again?" "I just felt insecure. I wanted to prove that I was more important than him in your hearts. Every time you chose between us and protected me, that was the happiest moment of my life. Only then did I know that I was also worthy of being loved." Every word struck Jiyu Qianyu and Su Liao's hearts like a cold arrow. Those unbearable memories became a hurdle they could never cross. The complex emotions swirling inside them made it impossible to remain calm. Before they left, they asked one last question. "All this time, have you ever regretted your actions?" "Regret?" Hearing the word, a flicker of confusion passed through Song Jingyan's eyes. He didn't understand why they would ask such a pointless question when they already knew the truth. What's the use of regret? Song Jingyan didn't think it mattered, but driven by the instinct for survival, he forced out a few tears. "Of course I really regret it. I shouldn't have harmed Mr. Jiyu, although he wasn't as good to me as you are, but you're lying." This time, Jiyu Qianyu finally saw through Song Jingyan's clumsy lies. She lost all control, raised her fist, and unleashed all the anger and pain in her heart onto him. One punch after another, screams echoed continuously in the long, dark corridor. Su Liao watched coldly without saying a word. When Jiyu Qianyu finally stopped, she looked at the battered, unrecognizable man and threw the key in her hand into the sewer outside the door. "Since you can't be honest, then stay here and wait to die." Watching his only path to survival being sealed off, the dizzy Song Jingyan could no longer pretend. He struggled to crawl up, his bloodied face distorted with fury. "Why? Why do I have to stay here and be tortured while you get to live lives above all others? Why should I regret anything? It's clearly because you were too stupid. I played such simple tricks so many times, and you never figured it out. Ha 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 ha. If it wasn't for your indulgence, how could I have framed him without any worry? For all the suffering he endured, you are the perpetrators, just like me." The bloody truth was exposed. Su Liao and Jiyu Qianyu stiffened, their breathing ragged. They stared at him, fire burning in their eyes, yet they refused to accept this fact. "You exploited our guilt and gratitude toward you to sow discord. If it weren't for you, how would we have wronged young Sun? You were the real culprit, you maniac. If I had known you had such a vicious heart, I would never have saved you back then. Since you show no remorse, just wait for your retribution." Having reached this point, Song Jingyan knew there was no turning back. Fear vanished from his heart, and he laughed maniacally. "Retribution? I've never believed in retribution. Even if there is retribution, Jiyu Qianyu, Su Liao, Do you think you can escape it? I am alone, and death is nothing. But you, I curse you to be forever separated from your loved ones. May you never find peace in your next life." These hysterical, crazy words to Ji Qianyu and Su Leao were like pouring oil on fire and rubbing salt in a wound. Unable to control their grief and anger, they called the staff and demanded that Song Jingnian endure all the pain I had suffered. The man's screams echoed in the air, but the pain of the two women was not eased at all. They knew better than anyone that no matter how much they repented, no matter how much they retaliated, Jiyu Yangshun would not come back. They would never have the chance to make amends. Night fell, completely swallowing their dejected and lonely figures. The car was silent, broken only by their heavy breathing. Though they had left the asylum, the curse of forever being separated from your loved ones still echoed in their ears. Ji Qianyu closed her eyes, her hands in her sleeves trembling uncontrollably. Su Leao covered her face, tears slipping between her fingers. Bone-deep pain struck them like a fierce storm. They say time heals all pain, but this saying held no truth for Su Leao and Jiu Qianyu. As the days passed, all my memories slowly became clearer in the painful and agonizing river of time. The burned-down villa was rebuilt, and both moved back. The furniture and decorations in the rooms were exactly as they used to be. New roses were planted in the garden, and the cat that had been sent away was brought back. Everything seemed unchanged, but everyone knew that everything had changed. The young man who used to read and brew tea on the balcony, the young man who religiously ran 5 kilometers in the yard every day, the one who cooked loving breakfasts for his sister and girlfriend, he would never return. Because they had lost the most important person, the villa, once full of laughter, slowly became desolate. Su Leao locked herself in her room, not leaving for months. Ji Qianyu was drunk all day, rarely sober. The only times they saw each other were at my grave, and they were always silent. Winter passed and spring returned. The daisies on the grave withered and bloomed again. On my 25th birthday, the two sat on Nanshan for an entire day before descending. On the way back, Ji Qianyu asked her in a low voice, "I'm going to see Mom and Dad. Are you coming?" Su Leao swallowed, a complex emotion flashing in her eyes. In the past, she would always accompany the Jiyu siblings to sweep the graves at the martyrs' cemetery every year. But ever since my death, whenever she thought of that cemetery, she felt trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape. The shattered black coat and the bloody remains beneath the white sheet became an ever-present shadow, so she had never set foot there again. But today, for some reason, she suddenly wanted to go. She nodded softly, her voice barely audible. "Let's go. It's Young Shun's birthday today. Aunt and uncle should want cake too." Seeing the cake with a missing slice, Ji Qianyu's heart ached. She forcibly swallowed the unspoken pain and set off for the martyrs' cemetery. It was already 4:30 p.m. when they arrived. The staff preparing to leave were somewhat impatient, muttering softly, "Why do people come to sweep the graves at this hour? So many strange people, one after another." Su Leao lowered her eyes, her voice muffled. "We just rushed here from Nanshan. We'll be quick, sorry for the trouble." Hearing Nanshan, the caretaker's face showed sympathy, and he said nothing more. The two walked toward the depths of the cemetery. In the dead of winter, the sky darkened early, and visibility was poor. From a distance, both of them saw a figure kneeling before the tombstone, performing a ritual. Although they couldn't clearly see the person's face, Su Leao and Jiyu Qianyu's hearts both skipped a beat. They both felt this person resembled Jiyu Yangshun. The person they had longed for appeared. Whether it was reality or an illusion, it profoundly shook them. They couldn't control the surging emotion and hurried to catch up. The tall trees in the cemetery blocked their view. As they walked, they started running. By the time they breathlessly reached the tombstone, the person had vanished. Only the chrysanthemums placed before the tombstone could prove that everything they had just seen was not a hallucination. Su Leao and Jiyu Qianyu exchanged glances, both seeing certainty in the other's eyes. They simultaneously followed the other path, chasing after the figure. They chased all the way to the parking lot but saw no one. Only a single lonely car was parked at the entrance. Neither wanted to give up, and both rushed to knock on the car window. A few seconds later, the window rolled down, revealing a familiar face. The momentary illusion of hope they had just created was extinguished. Ji-yu Chanyu managed to force a smile, her voice choked. "Uncle Xie, why are you here?" After quickly sending the two women away with a few brief words, Captain C sighed as he looked at the person in the back seat. "The operation has concluded. Although your identity is still classified, Kanyu is your older sister after all. Aren't you going to see her once and explain everything?" I shook my head gently, pulling up the hood of my jacket. My voice was devoid of emotion. "I'm already dead. The person who is alive now is Jiang Yichen. Let the past people and events go." Hearing this, Captain Xie finally couldn't help but ask for an explanation. "What exactly happened between you and Yanyu and Liao? How did it come to the point where you won't even acknowledge each other? They truly believed you were dead during these 2 years of undercover work and have not recovered from their grief." Jiang Yichen knew Captain Xie meant well, not wanting me to lose my family because of my job. But for me, the moment Jiyu Kanyu and Su Liao chose to save Song Jingnian 2 years ago during the kidnapping, I no longer had a family. My death was both an opportunity to achieve my dream and a way to escape the past and be reborn. The 2 years of living dangerously undercover, on a knife's edge, left me no time to dwell on the past. Now, when I recalled that dark time, only shallow, vague impressions remained, but the profound sense of abandonment still lingered. Therefore, no matter what, I would never repeat the past. Uncle Z, the dead cannot be brought back to life. My identity is related to the safety of the entire operation team, and absolutely cannot be easily exposed. In the face of greater good, I cannot be emotional. Furthermore, even if they knew I was alive, what then? Our job is to walk through minefields in dangerous areas. If one day I truly sacrifice myself like my parents, it would only cause them more unnecessary grief. It is better to keep it a secret this way. There is only benefit and no harm. Captain Xie understood my words better than anyone. He did not try to persuade me further, handing over the keys to a car and an apartment. "The sun-dipping operation has concluded, and your identity was not exposed. Headquarters believes your identity still holds value and won't call you back to base. They want you to continue to lie low and wait for the right moment. Here are the keys to the allocated apartment and car. Move in there for now and maintain a single-line connection with me." I was already accustomed to undercover work on the front line and didn't object. Captain Z drove me home, gave a few more instructions, and then left. I didn't go home with the keys. Instead, I went to a convenience store first and bought a lot of daily necessities. When I emerged, a light rain was falling outside. I didn't take an umbrella, walking alone down the alley back to Baishi. In the deserted, narrow alley entrance, 2 people were standing. Jiang Yixin didn't even lift an eyelid, walking straight past the 2 of them without looking aside. The moment we passed, Su Liao, looking utterly weary, reached out and grabbed my shoulder, her voice trembling with nervousness. "Yunju." I finally raised my head, glanced at her, and said with dissatisfaction and distaste, "Who are you? Let go. Don't block the way." The unfamiliar tone and cold eyes made Su Liao and Jiu Kuanyu's hearts tremble, but they refused to give up the slightest hope, stubbornly holding on. "I know it's you, Youngson. I'm your sister. Don't you recognize me?" I was startled by their frantic behavior. I instinctively dropped the things in my hands and struck out with my elbow. The 2 women were violently knocked back several steps. I immediately took off running. Stunned by the situation, the 2 instinctively chased after me. Upon seeing a face completely different from the one in their memory, the words Su Liao was about to blurt out caught in her throat. The faint hope that had ignited in her heart was completely extinguished at this moment, replaced by blank confusion. Jiyu Qianyu was also in disbelief. Her subconscious intuition told her that the person at the cemetery had to be me. She couldn't be mistaken. Yet, the person she tracked down, besides having a similar build, was worlds apart from her brother in both appearance and personality. While the 2 were dazed, the shop owner had already called the police. 10 minutes later, the police arrived and took all 4 people to the station. With the police present, I didn't hold back, speaking confidently and dramatically about what had happened that evening. I was blocked by these 2 hooligans the moment I came out of the convenience store. They insisted I was their brother and tried to take me away. I didn't need to think twice to know they weren't good people. Watching me flail and argue passionately, Ji-yu Chanyu and Su Liao's eyes slowly dimmed. They didn't want to admit it, but they had to. This person, named Jiang Yichen, was not Ji-yu Yangshun. In the past, no matter how wronged or angry I was by Song Jingyan, I would never have been so rude, yelling and shouting, completely lacking in manners or upbringing. A person's appearance could change, and their voice could be disguised, but such a massive shift in personality and temper was impossible. I wasn't aware of their thoughts. After finishing my lively account, I slammed the table. That's the whole story, officers. The witnesses and evidence are all here, and there must be surveillance footage too. You must uphold justice for me. The police officer recorded every word faithfully, then turned to Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Liao. What is your situation? We went to sweep the grave and saw him paying respects. We thought he was someone we knew, so we chased after him to ask. It was just a misunderstanding. Hearing this, I became even more indignant. I shot them a glare. They've been following me for so long. This is definitely premeditated crime. These two women are certainly up to no good. They must be detained. Absolutely detained. The police officer, annoyed by my clamor, made a gesture for quiet to calm me down and continued his questioning. So, both parties met at the cemetery. Which cemetery was it, and were you visiting the same person? Ji-yu Qianyu's eyes flickered slightly, and her voice became subdued. We went to the Martyrs' Cemetery to visit my parents. I maintained my rogue-like demeanor, speaking lightly. The Martyrs' Cemetery, huh? That was a grave-sweeping task my old man gave me before he died. I finally managed to spare some time to go, and then they harassed me. My disrespectful tone provoked Ji-yu Tianyu and Su Liao's anger, and they both stared at me with darkened eyes. Ji-yu Tianyu reiterated, "Let me state again, it was not harassment. We just mistook you for someone else." In response to Su Liao's words, I scoffed several times, my face full of disdain. "Mistake me? Are you joking? I don't even know you two. You just cornered me and kept calling me brother, brother. So blind you can't even recognize your own brother. Whoever is your brother is truly unlucky for 8 lifetimes." This highly offensive remark completely infuriated the two women. They both stood up simultaneously, clenching their fists. "Watch your mouth! Yangshun is not someone a hoodlum like you can talk about." Just as the two parties were about to start fighting, Captain Xie finally arrived and clarified that the whole thing was a misunderstanding. On his word, the police did not intervene further, waving them all away. He escorted the 3 of us out of the police station. I was still grumbling. Why turn a big deal into a small one and a small one into nothing? They were clearly 2 female hooligans. I say they should be arrested. Captain Xie gave me a helpless look, his tone turning serious. Forgive and forget when you can. Since it's cleared up as a misunderstanding, let it go. It's getting late. Go home now. With that, he hailed a cab and pushed the still unwilling me inside. After watching the car drive away, Captain Xie turned to Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Liao, a cordial smile on his face. "Just a bunch of childish tempers, don't be mad at him." Seeing Uncle Xie, their parents, most trusted comrade and someone who had always looked out for them, shield such an outspoken person, Ji-yu Qianyu felt a trace of suspicion rise in her heart. "Uncle Xie, who exactly is this person? Why did you take him to sweep the graves at my parents' tomb?" Captain Xie had anticipated this question on the way over and presented his prepared story. Yessian's family are fishermen. Before your parents sacrificed themselves, they saved Yichen's father's life. He has always remembered their kindness and has been sweeping the graves for years. 2 years ago, his father passed away from a cerebral hemorrhage, and on his deathbed, he kept mentioning this matter, so Yishen promised to sweep the graves once a year. I happened to run into him today and gave him a ride. His explanation was logical, it sounded perfectly reasonable, yet for some unknown reason, both women felt that something was off. But what exactly was wrong, they couldn't quite figure out, so they only frowned slightly. Captain Xie, not wanting them to dig deeper, added a few more explanatory words. Although Yichen is impulsive, he is kind-hearted. His family is poor, he didn't get much schooling, and his grandmother raised him. Both his parents passed away in the last few years. He's quite pitiful. For my sake, please be the bigger persons and don't hold it against him. Hearing this, and recalling my own tragic fate, Their lingering anger finally dissipated. They nodded silently. Captain Shi knew who they were thinking of, sighed deeply, and patted their shoulders. Young Shun has been gone for 2 years now. People have to move forward. Don't be too sad. He is being looked after by Brother Ji Yu and his wife in heaven, and wouldn't want you to constantly grieve. Though meant as words of comfort, Ji Yu Qianyu and Su Liao's moods grew heavier. They looked up at the cloudy, starless night sky, their emotions churning. If souls truly existed after death, would my father and mother be utterly disappointed to see them hurt me again and again? Would young Shun, who died tragically in despair, ever forgive them? In an instant, sorrow and pain surged into their hearts like a tide. They didn't know what to say and could only turn and get into the car in silence. The drive was quiet. When they returned to the villa, they stared distractedly at the dark, unlit room. If young Shun were still alive, he would definitely run out to the balcony and greet us with a smile when he saw us return. It's his birthday today, but he'll never get to eat birthday cake again. Su Liao tossed and turned all night. The figure she saw at the martyrs' cemetery kept replaying in her mind, leaving her restless. Is that person really not Young Shun? Jiang Yichen, she recited the name until 6 a.m., finally unable to resist getting up and sending a message to her secretary. As the sky outside gradually brightened, she went downstairs, wanting to go out for some air. Stepping out, she saw Ji Yu Qianyu standing in the corner. Their eyes met, both with dark circles underneath. Ji Yu Qianyu casually asked where she was going. Su Liao was dazed for a moment. She didn't know where she was going, she just instinctively wanted to escape this cage full of memories. Nowhere in particular, just for some air. With that, Su Liao drove off, wandering aimlessly. Her mind was a mess, full of confused thoughts. When she finally came to her senses, she realized she had returned to the alley from the day before. It was an old residential area with many small shops around. The breakfast stalls were already open. Steam billowed from the bun and steamed bread baskets. Through the mist, Su Liao saw me. I came downstairs leisurely, wearing a hat, casually tossed trash into the bin, bought a cage of buns, and went back inside. The whole process took less than 10 minutes, but Su Liao was stunned. After I left, she got out of the car as if possessed and followed. Passing the trash can, she glanced at it and was about to walk away, but after 5 steps, her sluggish, sleep-deprived brain suddenly started working. She backed up and looked at the trash. A candle, half hidden in an unmarked trash bag, caught her eye. Her gaze instantly froze. Yesterday, when confirming his identity at the police station, she had seen Jiang Yichen's ID, 23 years old, home address a small fishing village, birthday June 19th. Captain Chi said he was an orphan now, so why would he buy a birthday cake? In an instant, Su Liao felt she had grasped the key to the situation. She took quick steps and followed me upstairs. I was turning on the 4th floor, about to open my door when the neighbor next door came out. The little girl greeted me with a bright smile. I smiled back. Nana, thank you for inviting me to your party yesterday. Your birthday cake was delicious. One sentence shattered Su Liao's absurd conjecture. She let out a bitter smile, turned dejectedly, and walked downstairs, missing the little girl's innocent reply. Brother's cake was delicious too. It's so lucky that we had the same birthday. Can we celebrate together next year too? I bent down, rubbed the girl's head, exchanged a few more pleasantries, and went back home. The moment the door closed, I dropped all pretense and let out a sigh of relief. The buns were tasty and filled my hungry stomach. I stretched out on the sofa, smiling unconsciously as I recalled my grandmother's adorable look when she recommended the buns to me. After returning from the police station yesterday, I passed a cake shop and casually bought a cake. At the entrance, I ran into my neighbor Nana, who was also celebrating her birthday. The friendly little girl, blinking her eyes, grabbed me and asked if it was my birthday. After I confirmed it, she insisted on dragging me along to celebrate. Unable to refuse the enthusiastic and repeated invitations from the neighbor's family, I agreed. In just one night, the little girl became attached to me. Knowing I had just moved in, she also introduced me to many local delicacies. After dealing with the lowlifes of the crime syndicate for so long, it was a joy deep down to meet such good neighbors upon returning to a normal life. Regardless of what the future held, at this moment I had the peaceful life I longed for, and that was enough for me. I bought a lot of household items, and thoroughly tidied up the apartment. Due to the nature of my identity, I rarely went out, and even when I did, I covered my face. Despite being so cautious, I realized I was being followed. I happened to know the people tracking me, Su Liao and Jiyu Qianyu. After our encounter at the cemetery that day, I hadn't expected them to find me. To prevent them from becoming suspicious, I had caused a scene at the police station. Captain Ji later contacted me, saying they shouldn't be suspicious. Yet in the following days, I would frequently see a luxury sports car, completely out of place in this old neighborhood, from my window. When I occasionally went out to buy a bottle of water, I could feel faint, hidden eyes watching me. During my 2 years undercover, I had learned to act like a street punk to perfectly conceal my identity. I was confident that Su Liao and Jiyu Qianyu wouldn't recognize me. However, given the situation, they must have figured something out, which is why they were so frequently near me. To be safe, I thought it over carefully and called Captain Shi. After we discussed a countermeasure, I finally felt at ease. For the next few days, I stayed holed up at home. January 18th was the death anniversary of my nominal father, Jiang Daquan. I got up early and returned to the graveyard in the fishing village. Immediately after paying my respects, I was blocked by 3 or 5 thugs. "Damn it, you swindled me out of 3,000 yuan last time and took off the next day. I thought you wouldn't dare come back, Jiang Yichen. You've got guts." The group cursed and surrounded me. I glanced at them, picked up a wooden stick from the ground, and said with a grin, "Swindled? Didn't you lose that money to me? It was just 3,000. Zhao Biao, you've got a whole crew under you. You can't be a sore loser over that amount, can you?" Having his face rubbed in the dirt in front of his brothers, Zhao Biao was furious. He didn't want to waste time talking and raised his hand to attack me. Just as the iron rod was swung up, a voice stopped him. The group turned around and saw 2 well-dressed, dignified women staring at them coldly. A bunch of grown men bullying a single person? "Aren't you ashamed?" Zhao Biao spat, glaring angrily at the 2 women. "Who are you? Get lost immediately or I'll beat you up too!" At his command, the thugs started fighting the 2 bare-handed women. Watching the chaotic brawl, I took the opportunity to run, not hesitating for a second. The 2 fiercely fighting groups realized what happened 5 minutes later. One of the young thugs looked around, slapped his thigh, and yelled, "Crap, Brother Biao!" That brat ran off. The group immediately stopped fighting them to settle the score, and angrily chased toward the village entrance. The tense bodies of Jiyu Qianyu and Su Liao finally relaxed. Seeing the injuries on each other's faces, they froze for a moment before coming to their senses, realizing I had quietly slipped away while they were fighting. Both their faces darkened. In the past few days, they couldn't forget what happened at the cemetery. Logic told them Jiang Yichen was not Jiyu Yangshun, but their subconscious drove them to follow me unconsciously. I rarely went out, but just seeing the apartment with the constantly drawn curtains gave their 2 years of agonizing pain a moment of peace. They were not looking for proof that Jiang Yichen was Yang Kun. They were seeking comfort. Driving back to the old apartment complex and seeing the lights on in the room, both let out a sigh of relief. Jiyu Qianyu rolled down her window and lit another cigarette, while Su Liao picked up the dog-eared file and scrutinized it. This was the information the secretary had collected about Jiang Yichen. It was the life story of a complete stranger, yet she had read it countless times and knew it by heart. She didn't know why she was interested in such an undesirable person. She couldn't find a single similarity to Jiyu Yunshin in him. Yet just by looking at the text, the image she pictured in her mind was of me as a child. This bizarre situation made her wonder if she was losing her mind. But after hearing Jiyu Qianyu admit that she occasionally entered the same state, Su Liao realized it was not a hallucination. The 2 women specifically consulted a psychiatrist. The doctor diagnosed both with severe depression and offered a treatment plan. The 2 of you were likely driven to mental distress by the news of Mr. Gu's passing, and without any subsequent psychological therapy, the condition has progressively worsened. At this juncture, you encountered a person with a similar build at the location where Mr. Jiyu had his accident. In your extreme longing, you are subconsciously treating this Mr. Jiang as Mr. Gu's shadow, thus developing a reliance on him. Although the dead cannot be brought back to life, for the sake of your health, I suggest you interact more with this Mr. Jiang. His presence will be helpful for the treatment of your condition. Perhaps he can help you emerge from the shadow of the accident and resume a normal life. Recalling the doctor's advice and the incident today, a thought stirred in Su Liao's heart. She looked at Jiyu Qianyu. Chanyu, since Zhang Yichen is helpful for the recovery of our condition, why don't we bring him to live with us? Perhaps it's fate that we ran into him. Although he isn't Young Kun, his life is also quite miserable. We can treat it as earning good karma for Young Kun. Jiyu Chanyu already had the same idea. She nodded gently. He has some issues, but he's not bad at heart. Since my parents saved his father, I'll help him out too, so he doesn't go astray in the future and let my parents down. The two women discussed it for a while longer before going upstairs together and knocking on the door. They knocked for a full half hour, but there was no response. Finally, a neighbor couldn't stand it and shouted a few curses, and I finally opened the door slightly, sticking one eye through the small gap, looking defensive. You two are never ending, are you? Get lost? Or I'm calling the police. The moment I spoke, Jiyu Qianyu was instantly angered. Su Liao quickly held her back, patiently answering me. Let's talk about what happened today. I glared at them, my tone extremely nasty. Talk about what? Talk about you two stalking me? Fine, let's talk at the police station then. See if you can still dodge it this time. Saying this, I tried to shut the door. Su Liao was quick, using her palm to wedge the door open. Zhang Yichen showed her no quarter and slammed the door with all his might. Her entire palm instantly became bruised, black and blue. Seeing her injury, the furious Jiyu Qianyu couldn't help but scold me. Zhang Yichen, we saved you! Don't be so ungrateful. Who asked you to save me? Didn't you just stick your noses in where they didn't belong? And now you want to use that to threaten me? No chance. Seeing the two about to argue again, Su Liao interrupted, enduring the sharp pain. We didn't come here to argue. We just want to discuss something. If you don't give us this chance, those thugs who cornered you this afternoon might show up tomorrow. My expression slowly became subtle at her words. I glared at them fiercely, almost gnashing my teeth. Spit it out! The two women knew this meant compromise. Su Liao wiped the cold sweat from her forehead, slowly lowered her hand, and said weakly, It's not suitable here. Let's go to a tea house. The private room was quiet. Hearing their request, I gave them an incredulous look. What do you mean? Hire me to help cure your illness? I didn't even finish junior high. You want me to cure you? Are you too crazy? Aren't you afraid I'll kill you by accident? You don't need to do anything, you just need to move into the villa and live with us. When Jiyu Qianyu said this, my skepticism deepened. Do you take me for a 3-year-old? You two look like scammers trying to buy people. Good things don't just fall from the sky. Lunatics. Su Liao took a deep breath, handed over a business card, attempting to prove her identity. I tossed it into the trash without looking. I can make one of those too. Jiyu Qianyu took out a bank card and handed it over, simply telling me there was 8 million on it. I weighed it in my hand and easily snapped it into several pieces, scoffing. You want to use me to launder money? I won't fall for that. Next, the two women proposed countless other conditions, all of which I refused. Jiyu Qianyu's patience slowly ran out. With a sullen face, she asked, What exactly will it take for you to believe us? I took a sip of tea, crossed my legs, and pointed casually out the window at the tallest skyscraper in Huocheng. Buy that building, show me your strength first. A few days later, when they came to my door with the acquisition certificate, I still didn't take it seriously, proposing a new demand. I heard Union Temple is very effective. I haven't been sleeping well lately. You two go get a peace amulet for me. Be absolutely sincere, okay? That afternoon, videos of Su Liao and Jiyu Qianyu climbing the mountain, taking a step, and then kowtowing spread across the internet. Watching the bloodied faces of the two women in the video, my eyes flickered. The memories sealed deep within surged forth. The baseless accusations during the framing, the despair of being abandoned again and again, the endless tears and blood, all vivid and unforgettable. I pressed my hand against my somewhat numb heart, breathing heavily to ease the physical discomfort. I couldn't understand. I had proposed such unreasonable and harsh demands. Why wouldn't they give up? Was it just for the vague reason that I had the shadow of their brother on me? If they cared so much, why didn't they cherish me when I was alive? I had been dead for so long, and yet they sought comfort in a total stranger. How ridiculous. Therefore, when they presented the hard-won peace amulet, I remained unmoved. The object is nice, but it's stained with blood. Won't that bring a disaster of blood? In that case, forget it. I don't want it. Take it back. I threw the amulet back at them and started to walk upstairs. Furious, Ji-yu coyed my hand. Why do you keep trampling on our sincerity again and again? What else is unsatisfactory? I paused, turned around, and looked at her from head to toe. I'm dissatisfied with both of you. Can't you tell? Very few people make me hate them so much at first sight. Though these words came from Jiang Yichen's mouth, for some reason, Su Leiyao and Ji-yu Chanyu felt it was me standing opposite them. In an instant, the same old guilt and pain rushed back, tormenting them like a blunt knife sawing flesh. Both their faces turned utterly pale, and their hands dropped powerlessly. I had no intention of dealing with them and turned to walk toward my home. The deep night fell, covering the whole world like an endless abyss. They were falling uncontrollably into the darkness. I thought that after saying such hurtful things, the two proud women would stop bothering me. But the situation far exceeded my expectation. Before, I would only see them every other day or so. Now they had directly bought the vacant apartment next door and moved in. I truly didn't know what was going through their minds, but I didn't compromise because of their crazy actions. Although the sun-dipping operation was perfectly completed, and I, the pawn, had been temporarily shelved, beneath the calm surface, currents were stirring. Perhaps next month, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps the next second, I, the undercover agent Jiang Yichen, would be reactivated by the organization. I was prepared to resume the fight at any moment. So in public, I continued to play the role of the foul-mouthed, dissolute punk, and I maintained a cold attitude towards Ji-yu Qianyu and Su Leiyao. No matter how much I mocked them, they refused to give up, continuously showing goodwill. I simply pretended they didn't exist. I either threw away or gave away the gifts they sent. When they offered me a job, I replied that I didn't want to work. When they invited me to travel and relax, I closed the door and didn't even bother to reply. Days passed, and I slowly adapted to my current life, also noticing a change in Ji-yu Yanyu and Su Leiyao. They seemed to have become addicted to rejection, becoming more persistent with every setback. The way they looked at me was also getting stranger. Occasionally, I would hear them mistakenly call my name in a trance. Young Sun. It had been too long since anyone called me that. I was momentarily taken aback, but quickly returned to normal. After calming myself, I unusually turned around and spoke to the startled Ji-yu Qianyu. I'm not, Young Sun. If you're sick, go see a doctor. Don't go crazy on me. With that, I closed the door and left home. The sudden movement as I turned caused the necklace hidden beneath my collar to swing out. Seeing the pendant, Ji-yu Qianyu's face instantly changed. If she wasn't mistaken, the flowing flower pattern on the pendant was identical to the pattern on the watch charm left by my mother, which I treasured. After the accident, Ji-yu Qianyu had searched everywhere along the road and every conceivable place at home, but had never found the watch. Why would Jiang Yichen have the same design? In a flash, the delusion that Jiang Yichen was Ji-yu Youngshun, which she had denied countless times, surfaced again in her heart. And this time, the premonition was stronger than any before. She took large strides and chased downstairs, wanting some confirmation. But the night was too dark, and Ji-yu Qianyu couldn't find the figure that haunted her dreams. Her intense emotions suppressed her disappointment. She tightly gripped her hands, turned, and went back to the 4th floor, preparing to tell Su Leiyao the good news. After my figure disappeared, I emerged from a crowded late-night snack stall and got into a car parked by the roadside. Once the door closed, I reported my recent situation to him, emphasizing that Su Leiyao and Ji-yu Qianyu might be getting suspicious. After listening, he nodded, his gaze deep and solemn. I understand. I will handle things on this end. You don't need to worry. My mind finally relaxed. Is the operation starting tonight? Captain Ji handed a sealed document bag to me before speaking gravely. Operation Excellence officially begins tonight at 10 p.m. Your identity remains the same. Jiang Yichen, the yoga instructor. Your code name has been changed to Nie Dongyan. The next day, Su Leiyao and Ji-yu Qianyu were awakened by sounds in the corridor. Coming to their senses, they both leaped up from the sofa and rushed to the door without putting on their shoes. Opening the door, they were stunned to see a group of people moving furniture out of the apartment next door. They rushed forward to stop them. Where is Jiang Yichen? He's not here! How can you move his things?" The landlord glanced at them, rolling his eyes. He only rented the place for 2 months in total. He's moved out now. Of course, I need to tidy up for the new tenant to move in. This news was a bolt from the blue for the two women. They never imagined that in just one night, Jiang Yichen would vanish right under their noses. The two, who had been excited all night because of a small conjecture, could not accept this outcome. They tried every possible way to ask about my whereabouts, but neither the landlord nor the neighbors knew anything. And the list of travelers entering and leaving Huocheng did not include the name Jiang Yichen. He had vanished without a trace, like a drop of water falling into the ocean. Just a step away from the truth, the only person who offered them hope had disappeared. This result was a heavy, unacceptable blow to both Jiyu Qianyu and Su Leao. They reverted to the state they were in when I first died, haggard and lifeless. Under the pain of crushed hope, they could only rely on the constant affirmation that Jiang Yichen is Yongshun, and he only left because he didn't want them to find him to barely maintain their sanity. But even this psychological support slowly became fragile and weak as the days passed. The two had nearly turned all of Huocheng upside down, but still hadn't found Jiang Yichen's whereabouts. They could only lock themselves in the small apartment they had bought, waiting hopelessly for my return. Day after day, the living room slowly filled with empty wine bottles and ash heaps. Waking up from a drunken stupor and seeing the empty room, Su Liao's head was pounding. The wine on the table was finished. She walked toward the bathroom. Just as she was about to turn on the faucet, a single strand of hair on the corner of the wall suddenly caught her attention. Picking it up and examining it for a while, her hazy mind suddenly cleared. She woke up the still sleeping Jiyu Qianyu, and the two women rushed to the hospital, heading straight for the genetics department. The half-day wait felt like an unbearable agony, every second a torment. Driven by adrenaline, Jiyu Qianyu also contacted someone who might know Jiang Yichen's whereabouts. When Captain Shi arrived at the hospital after work, having received the message, the test results had just been released. They were stamped with a seal confirming, quote, "no biological relationship." The moment they saw these words, the last thread snapped within Jiyu Qianyu and Su Leao. Tears welled up in their red-rimmed eyes, and their bodies trembled uncontrollably. The two women tore the paper into shreds as if they were insane. Watching the scattered fragments fall like snowflakes, Captain Shi's lowered eyes held a flash of pity. The night I left, he had ordered people to clean out the apartment. This strand of hair was left intentionally by me, solely to sever the last bit of suspicion in their hearts. Although this outcome was too painful for them, any sacrifice was worthwhile for the smooth execution of the operation. Bolstered by this conviction, his emotional reaction was fleeting. He quickly returned to being the rational, calm captain of the Criminal Investigation Brigade. He walked over to them and restated the facts. Qianyu Leao Yongshun passed away 2 years ago. Do not pin your emotions on a fictional assumption. You must try to walk out of this yourselves. This composed and firm voice offered no comfort to Jiyu Qianyu and Su Liao. They knew better than anyone that they couldn't walk out of it. The world, shrouded in darkness for them, would never see the dawn. And the moon had already fallen,